Sam Elliott's voice has echoed across generations of gravelly, commanding sound that's as instantly recognizable as the man himself. It's a voice that doesn't just narrate, it defines. For decades, audiences have associated that signature timbre with honor, grit, and the rugged ideals of the American West. But beneath the thick mustache, the cowboy hats, and the unmistakable Western swagger lies something most fans never imagined, a long-held anger, smoldering quietly beneath the surface for years. Behind the stoic exterior of one of Hollywood's most iconic cowboys is a man who has quietly carried grudges not just personal, but professional. Despite a career spanning 6 decades and a level of respect few actors ever attain, there are 6 people Sam Elliott has never been able to forgive. Some betrayed the craft of acting itself, while others wronged him directly, whether to his face, behind closed doors, or through the roles they played. For years he stayed silent. Now, at the age of 80, Sam is no longer keeping his feelings bottled up. For the first time, he's revealing the names on his personal blacklist, and once you know who's on it, you might never look at them the same way again. Let's begin with the name that caused Sam to walk off a set and never return: Kevin Costner, the cowboy Sam couldn't stand. Sam Elliott built his entire career around one thing: authenticity. Every role he took, every word he uttered on screen, felt hard-earned and true to life. He didn't just play cowboys, he was one. Raised around ranches and steeped in the dust and grit of the real American West, Sam brought a lived-in realism to his performances. When he spoke, you could almost hear the saddle creak beneath him. His gaze carried the weight of the open plains, and his voice carried the wind of old frontier trails. That's why when Kevin Costner donned the cowboy hat in Wyatt Earp, or stood tall as the patriarch of Yellowstone, Sam wasn't impressed. To him, Costner wasn't the real deal. He was Hollywood's polished interpretation of a cowboy: clean boots, cinematic lighting, scripted grit. Sam once confided in a friend, saying that Costner played a rancher like a man dressing up for Halloween, like he was pretending to understand a life he'd never truly lived. While fans raved about Yellowstone, its high-stakes drama, its sweeping landscapes, and Costner's gravel-toned authorities, as Elliott rolled his eyes, he didn't see the authentic West he knew. He saw a fantasia glossy, television-friendly version of reality meant for people who'd never even touched a fence post, let alone strung one. He once allegedly turned down a cameo in Yellowstone without a second thought, calling the entire show a soap opera with a cowboy hat. But it wasn't just the storylines that bothered him, it was the soul of the project. To Sam, Westerns aren't entertainment. They're sacred. They're moral tales filled with unspoken truths, restrained emotions, and the kind of rugged dignity that only comes from living hard and staying quiet. I felt that Costner's version brought flash without substance. Even when the two men found themselves in the same room, the tension was thick enough to cut. "They never raised their voices," said one producer, "but the cold between them could freeze a desert." And believe it or not, that clash was only the beginning. The next name on Sam's mental blacklist stunned Hollywood: Benedict Cumberbatch, too polished, too foreign, and far too removed from the world he was trying to portray. In 2021, Sam Elliott did something uncharacteristic. He blasted a movie publicly, and he did it without an ounce of restraint. Film was the power of the dog, and Sam's reaction wasn't diplomatic, nor was it cushioned with respectful critique. He spoke like a man who'd had enough with sharp edges, biting sarcasm, and pure frustration. His issue wasn't just with the film's slow pace or its artistic ambitions. It was personal. He took direct aim at Benedict Cumberbatch, mocking everything from his accent to his body language. Sam referred to his performance as a prissy portrayal of a rancher, as if the actor were playing dress-up in his father's boots. What the hell does this Brit know about the American West? Sam scoffed during a podcast, his disbelief dripping from every syllable. The response was immediate. Fans of Cumberbatch and the film leapt to its defense. Critics accused Sam of being outdated, of clinging to a version of masculinity that no longer fit modern storytelling. Social media ignited, calling Sam a gatekeeper unwilling to evolve. But Sam didn't retreat. didn't soften his stance or issue a clarifying press statement. He stood firm, like a cowboy refusing to back down from a standoff. To him, the power of the dog didn't just miss the point, it disrespected everything. The Western genre was built on, he felt it romanticized fragile masculinity instead of honoring the rugged. Silence and emotional restraint that defined real men of the frontier. While Cumberbatch never addressed the criticism directly, those close to him say he was hurt. Studios quietly considered issuing a rebuttal, but ultimately chose to let silence do the talking. Sam, however, had already fired his shots. He wasn't attacking one actor. He was defending a traditional way of storytelling he believed was being distorted by modern tastes and misplaced artistic vision. But the next name Sam criticized was even closer to home: Ashton Kutcher. Too many, Kutcher is a likable figure, charming, funny, and wildly successful in both Hollywood and tech. But to Sam Elliott, he represented everything wrong with the new generation of actors. Sam believes acting is a sacred craft, one that demands dedication, emotional truth, and a respect for its history. He doesn't believe it's a popularity contest or a stepping stone for influencers and entrepreneurs. So when Kutcher rose to fame through sitcoms like That 70s Show, rom-coms, and high-profile investments, Sam wasn't impressed. He was irritated. And yet, when they were both cast in the Netflix series The Ranch, Sam didn't complain. He showed up. He delivered. Because at his core, he's a professional. But off-screen, it didn't take long for cracks to form. Crew members whispered about the unspoken tension between the two. Sam was polite, but distant. "He's a decent guy," Sam reportedly told someone on set. But he's no real actor. It wasn't Kutcher's personality that bothered Sam. It was his approach. To Sam, Ashton symbolized a Hollywood where followers mattered more than experience, where charm could substitute for substance, and where image trumped emotional truth. Kutcher, in Sam's eyes, was the face of an industry that was turning storytelling into spectacle, where acting was becoming a brand, not a calling. While fans saw on-screen chemistry between the two leads, Sam saw only surface. Kutcher praised Sam in interviews, calling him a mentor and a legend, but Sam's private words told a different story. "Acts like someone who learned acting from YouTube," he allegedly said. It wasn't meant to be cruel. It was about standards. Standards, Sam feared, were disappearing. It wasn't holding a grudge. It was defending a fading ideal and era when storytelling was about stillness, truth, and soul. To Sam, The Ranch may have looked like a success, but behind the scenes, there was no brotherhood, just tolerance. And then came a name that truly shook Sam Elliott's world: Nicolas Cage. Too many. Cage is a master of bold, unorthodox performances. Wild, unpredictable, and larger than life. But to Sam, those very traits were the problem. Sam Elliott believes that true power in acting comes not from volume, but from restraint. He prizes subtlety, the ability to express oceans of emotion with a single glance, a small gesture, or a pause held just long enough to make the silence speak. In Sam's view, the greatest performances simmer. They don't shout. And Cage, in his opinion, does nothing quietly. He's too loud, too bizarre, too theatrical for a genre that demands grounded truth. Sam believed that Cage's flamboyant choices overshadowed the characters he played, turning serious roles into spectacles in Sam Elliott's world. The soul of the Western and of acting itself lives in restraint. He sees it as an art form rooted in patience, discipline, and unspoken strength. When that's replaced with flamboyance and noise, something sacred is lost. Nicolas Cage's performances, no matter how popular or praised, felt like a betrayal. Of that quiet power Sam spent a lifetime mastering. In his eyes, it wasn't just about style, it was about respect. Respect for the craft, for the story, and for the silence that often speaks louder than words. When Nicolas Cage burst into Hollywood's spotlight, he did so with an unmistakable, electrifying presence, wild gestures, bug-eyed stares, and sudden explosive outbursts that seemed to come out of nowhere. To many, he was a breath of fresh air, bringing unpredictable energy to every role. But not everyone saw it that way. For Sam Elliott, this wasn't brilliant, it was bedlam. What others praised as boldness and originality, Sam interpreted as chaos. He didn't see an actor channeling the soul of a character. He saw a performer putting on a show and over-the-top, scene-stealing act that turned every moment into a personal spotlight. Cage, in Sam's eyes, wasn't acting. He was hijacking every frame, sucking the air out of every scene, and leaving nothing for his fellow taskmates to share, even when they both appeared in the superhero film Ghost Rider. Sam kept his distance. He was polite, yes, respectful, always but warm, not even remotely. On set, their interactions were cordial at best. In interviews that followed, while Sam never pointed fingers or mentioned names outright, his remarks left little to the imagination. He often criticized certain actors who, in his view, treated every role like a one-man theater production, louder, flashier, more self-centered with each take. Those close to Sam didn't have to guess who he meant. What? It was obvious. He was talking about Cage on Private. He was even more direct. He's more firework than flame, Sam reportedly said to a close friend. Big bang, no heat. While Cage cultivated a loyal fan base with his wild unpredictability and manic energy, Sam stood firm in his devotion to a slower, more thoughtful style of acting. He believed in subtlety underplaying a role, so that audiences leaned in rather than recoiled. Cage, in Sam's mind, represented everything wrong with modern Hollywood, a love for shock value over storytelling, for spectacle over sincerity. To Sam, it was style, overwhelming substance acting for entertainment, not for art. And though Cage did earn the occasional award and was even praised by some critics as brilliantly unhinged, Sam wasn't buying it. Not for a moment. No trophy could make up for what he saw as shallow theatrics. For Sam Elliott, real acting wasn't about creating headlines or going viral. It was about going inward, finding truth, embracing stillness, and honoring the humanity. Within a character, those were the values he felt Cage had long abandoned. But Nicolas Cage wasn't the only actor who disappointed Sam. Perhaps the most unexpected name, the one that truly stung, was someone Sam once called a friend, Jeff Bridges. There was a time when Sam Elliott and Jeff Bridges were kindred spirits. They came from the same school of thought, quietly powerful, emotionally grounded, and poetic in their silence. They didn't need big monologues or dramatic meltdowns to captivate an audience. Their strength came from presents a rare, magnetic stillness that only a few actors ever master. They could say more in a single glance than others could with a page of dialogue. Their on-screen chemistry was undeniable, especially in The Big Lebowski, a film that eventually reached cult status and became a cultural landmark. They were two sides of the same coin, both commanding yet understated. Off-screen, they shared laughs, long talks, and what seemed like a genuine friendship rooted in trust and mutual admiration. But somewhere down the line, something quietly fell apart. There was no public fallout, no dramatic confrontation. It was more of a gradual, silent unraveling, something neither of them ever openly addressed. After Bridges won his Oscar for Crazy Heart, people close to Sam began noticing a shift. The Jeff who once radiated humility and laid-back charm started appearing in luxury fashion magazines, showing up to red carpets with political slogans plastered on his chest, and participating in sleek, highly managed press tours. He became harder to reach, according to sources close to Sam, less grounded or curated. To Sam, it felt like something authentic had been lost. The honesty that once defined Jeff's personality seemed to have been replaced with Hollywood gloss. The shared belief they once held that the work should always speak louder than the fame had started to dissolve. When asked in a rare interview about past collaborators, Sam offered a cryptic but telling remark: "Some folks change, others just show who they always were." Many believe this was a direct shot at Bridges. Jeff, true to his calm and diplomatic nature, never responded. But the silence spoke volumes. Two men stopped attending the same film festivals and no longer supported each other's projects. The brotherhood they once shared on screen faded away. And for Sam, the hurt didn't come from jealousy or rivalry. It wasn't about the awards or the fame. It was about something far deeper. The erosion of a bond he believed was built on something real. a bond not forged in Hollywood glitz, but in shared values. And when that bond crumbled, it left behind a quiet ache that Sam rarely spoke of. Insiders say he felt more abandoned than betrayed by a dramatic event, but by time, by distance, and by the slow realization that the man he once stood beside now stood somewhere else entirely. Yet that heartbreak still didn't compare to the final name, the one that tested Sam's patience the most, Jared Leto. If there's one thing Sam Elliott has never tolerated, it's pretension, not confidence, not dedication, but that exaggerated self-important attitude that turns acting into an ego trip. And to Sam, no one embodied that kind of performance art quite like Jared Leto, as Leto gained notoriety for his extreme method acting, sending dead rats to castmates, refusing to break character for weeks, and turning film sets into psychological war zones. Sam saw none of it as impressive. He didn't see passion or commitment. He saw a gimmick. Headlines and awards didn't sway him. The theatrics to Sam weren't talent. They were distractions. In a private moment with a friend, he once said if he needs that much effort to act, maybe he's in the wrong profession. To Sam, real acting wasn't about how far you'd go to stay in character or how many stories the media could write about your process. It was about losing yourself in a role with quiet discipline and dignity, bringing a character to life without turning the experience into a sideshow. It didn't require circus-like antics. It required sincerity. Although Sam and Leto never worked together, insiders revealed that Sam was once in early talks for a film he believed in. He liked the story. He liked the director. But the moment he heard Jared Leto had been cast, he quietly stepped away. No statements, no drama. Just a firm and final decision. That's how seriously he drew the line. For Sam Elliott, acting is sacred. It's not about being the loudest voice in the room or the most talked about name in the headlines. It's about honesty, simplicity, and emotional truth. And while Hollywood has embraced spectacle and chaos in recent years, Sam remains one of the last guardians of the old-school craft. At 80, he's not chasing roles, he's chasing truth. And part of that truth is this. Some actors, no matter how famous, don't deserve the pedestal. In a town overflowing with noise and artificial sparkle, Sam Elliott stands alone, unapologetic, and unwavering. It's the last real cowboy. Now, we want to hear from you. Which of these feuds surprised you the most? You think Sam was being too harsh or just brutally honest? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe, because more hidden truths from Hollywood are coming your way soon.